Hey, bro.
All right. So something just popped up here.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I can't see because I'd take my glasses off. I look like a weirdo.
You see me
Yeah.
okay?
Huh?
Can you see me okay?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
great. I mean, well, I can't see you very well because my glasses on. Hang on.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fantastic. Let me hook
Awesome.
up. Let me hook up my battery charger here.
Yeah.
Nothing like doing stuff on the fly, man. Hold on. Now I got to put my glasses on to see where plug it in. Ain't nothing like getting just a little bit older, man.
Oh my gosh, who are you selling? This daylight savings time this week has just been killing me this week. This is the first year where it's really bothered me.
Yeah. Well, I think they had passed legislation to keep it this way, right?
Like that,
So,
yeah, but has it
but
actually
they have to,
passed yet?
well, maybe they proposed legislation.
I think so. I know Coach
And
Tuberville was a part of that whole bill.
which one?
Coach Tuberville.
Yeah. And quite honestly, if you want the truth, I do not like it getting dark at 4:30 or 5 o'clock.
No, it's definitely a safety risk. I think, I'd rather have more light at night. And, if the kids got to get on the bus and it's dark outside, then, the parents just stay with the kids to make sure they get on the bus
Yeah.
okay.
No,
You
actually,
know?
if you get up early, which I rarely do, but I did this morning to walk the dog at like 4:45
Mhm.
and because he was whining and just being out there it was still dark. It was so quiet. All you could hear were the birds chirping and whistling and
Mhm.
all that. And man, what a great time to be out there
Yeah,
and not the hustle and bustle of people trying to get to work.
it's
And of
peaceful.
course, it was a lot earlier than anybody would be going to work, and plus it was Saturday, but still, nevertheless, it just was so peaceful. But I
Mhm.
would much rather have more light in the afternoon
Yep.
than it getting dark. I mean, I think I suffer from that seasonal something.
Seasonal depression or whatever they call
Yeah,
it.
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't like it getting dark that early.
I don't think
And
anybody really does. I mean,
yeah. So
you could
hopefully,
still,
go ahead.
no, you could still, I mean, even if you do anything at night, any type of hunting at night, you can still do it.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't take anything away from that. So,
Well, I just like honestly, I like the sunshine, and I can honestly tell you that up here in Birmingham, it hadn't been all that sunny that much here lately.
really.
And yeah, but I couldn't imagine living in Alaska
Mhm.
where, maybe 3 months out of the year it's dark. The other
Yeah.
3 months out of the year it's light. And then the other 6 months are kind of in between or whatever.
And I,
I couldn't deal with that.
and I think there's some time frame in Alaska where it doesn't go dark at all. It's just light the whole time. I can't remember.
What's that?
I think there's at some point in time in Alaska where it doesn't go dark at all. It's like 24 hours worth of daylight.
Yeah, yeah. Well, almost 24 hours. I was up there. We did Clark and I did my wife did an Alaskan cruise, and I'll
Oh
never
wow.
forget. Yeah, it was fantastic. Probably the best trip we ever took. Which I didn't want to go on, and someone's trying to call me, but let me send that to voicemail. Um, I wasn't. I'm not a big fan of cruises.
Right.
Mainly because it's a coin toss if I'm going to get sick or not.
Oh, I
And
see.
yeah, but what I found out
Seasick?
about Alaska is,
Mhm.
the 7 out of 9 days you're on the cruise, you're in what you call the Southeast Passage, Inside Passage. So
Mhm.
you're in between Canada and Barrier Island. So it's kind of like a river. And then the last couple of days, you're out in some pretty big swells. But I'd
Oh,
loaded up on Dramamine, Bonine or Bodine, whatever that stuff's called. And it served me well. Um, I saw so many people getting sick those last couple of days,
that's
but I
good to
was kind
know.
of floating along, a little bit sleepy. But I will say this: Alaska, the country, is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's like Jurassic Park, you know. And so anyway, but so for me, man, I always wanted to live in California
Oh, really?
because
I
I
didn't know
went when I
that.
was, I went out there with my mom and one of my best friends who passed away not too well about a year ago. Um, when we were 12 or 13 years old, and it just seemed like sunshine all the time. But not only that, there was no humidity.
Mm,
It was dry air. Now, of course, with that, you can get burned pretty bad and not even know it.
right.
Here in the South, humidity will tell you you are getting burned if you're in the
Yeah.
sun. It'll tell you that it's really hot when it's overcast, when you're sweating profusely in a suit. And, but no, I hope they pass it because I really do. I really like, not driving home at night at
Right.
4:45 and it's
Yeah.
dark. It's just
Yeah.
kind of depressing.
Well,
But
that
I'm not a
too is
depressed
also,
person.
yeah, neither am I. uh,
Um, anyway,
it's good for vitamin D for the sun, getting your natural levels of vitamin D.
yes,
I mean, we all need that.
yeah, we do. And there's a couple places I could never imagine living my life. And well, no, there's a lot more places than that, but kind of on the same scope of things. Like London, it seems like every movie I see that's in London, it's always freaking raining.
Raining and dark. Yeah.
Yeah, and Seattle, you know,
No,
it doesn't
no.
like pour rain, but it's misty and overcast. And
Right. Well,
Alaska,
that's where Nirvana came from. Didn't they come from Seattle, that area?
yeah, Soundgarden, Nirvana,
Yeah.
I think maybe Alice in Chains, a few others. Yeah, that the dynamics of music change drastically.
In the
Um,
90s.
yeah, 92, I think, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, 90 to 92.
Mm-hmm.
And the old hair bands and the rock and roll, that kind of rock and roll that I grew up with. Uh, Only the ones that had staying power hung in there.
Yeah.
And the other ones just faded out and everything changed. But, everything goes in cycles.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
So who knows?
Well,
I'm a real
it'll
big
all come
rock fan.
back. It'll all come back.
Yeah, I mean, I love all music. Don't get me wrong. I mean, one of my favorite bands is the Foo Fighters.
Really.
And oh yeah,
What's your
man, I
favorite
love.
song?
Oh, let's see. What is my favorite Foo Fighters song?
Uh-huh.
Man, there's a lot of them, but
Hmm.
I'm just trying to think of one right off the top of my head.
I think I've
Uh,
got one. Uh didn't they do the song There Goes My Hero?
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, there
that's
we
a
go.
great song. But there's actually another one that I really like, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. I mean, I like pretty much like every
Yeah,
bit of every song or every song they've ever done.
yeah,
And mainly because of Dave Grohl. I think he's a
yes.
very interesting fella. And of course, he was the drummer for Nirvana,
Drummer for Nirvana. Yeah.
right? And then, of course, he started off playing guitar and then got the drums. And then when everything happened with Kurt Cobain
Kurt.
and
Yeah.
um, and then him, forming the Foo Fighters. I just I just remember the first video they did. I think first or second video, and so this would have been in the late '90s or whatever. And not only is he a talented musician, but he was a very talented kind of actor
Mm-hmm.
in those
Mm-hmm.
videos.
Yeah.
Um, but so I just became a fan, and
Yeah.
I've never seen him live. I'd love to,
Oh yeah.
um, but they just everything they do is it always kind of for some reason starts off in this kind of slow like manner,
And it
and
builds.
then it just builds and builds and
Mm-hmm.
builds. And I have a lot of friends that are like big fans of jam bands, like
Mm.
well, for those back in the '80s, it had been the Grateful Dead, and
Mm.
then Fish, and then Widespread Panic.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but for me, I like a song to start and finish
Yeah.
within like 10 minutes at
Right.
best.
Right.
I don't want to, but that's just me. Everybody has their own opinion.
That's right.
And
That's what makes music so good. Is because it's all music's all different.
right.
I've always liked all different types of music. I grew up on the oldies, but I would listen to country, rap, 80s music. Uh, some of my favorite bands were Linkin Park and
Yeah, I love Linkin Park.
you know, just a wide variety of music. And it's just amazing. Music is one of the greatest expressions of human creativity.
Well, it is. And, believe it or not, uh, just the nostalgia of some of the stuff you listened to when you were younger can
Mm-hmm.
recite memories and, the things that
Mm-hmm.
have just kind of gone by, but when you hear them, you're like back in that moment.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're like,
That's the power of music.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah. It
because you
creates
can't.
those memories along with, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking like even when even when you read like books and stuff, it really doesn't have the same effect that music does. You know,
Now,
music can literally take you back in time to those moments.
right. And even today's contemporary Christian music
Mm-hmm.
is so good, and I know a lot of people will say, well, you're just trying to create an environment. Uh, well, yeah,
Well, yeah, yeah,
you are.
you are.
And
You're trying to create an alternative.
right. And some of those contemporary Christian songs, from Chris Tomlin, who's probably one of the single best,
Mm-hmm.
songwriters. They're so simple, but the lyrics are so meaningful. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, going back a few years before that, Third Day, and then
Yeah,
Casting Crowns, and
yeah,
the list goes on and on.
right.
And, but, I'll be riding down the road listening, to some contemporary Christian music or just music, but it happens to be, you know, Christ centered.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so moving to
It
me
is.
that I find myself, sometimes wiping tears from my eyes. And that for me, riding around or driving or going to do stuff at work, whatever, or whether I'm just getting out on a Sunday cruise or just, that's where I do my best thinking. And,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I hear some of these really strong, powerful, um, Christian songs, man, I find myself just praising God in the car,
Yeah.
and it's moving, So yeah, music
It,
is
it's
a
also it's also being alone. That's your quiet and private time too, because it helps you get you on the right frequency.
exactly. Um, but see, now you got me stumped because I told you one of my favorite bands was Foo Fighters. I'm trying to think of a song, and had I not said that, I probably could have recalled 4 or 5 of them. But Yeah, Hero. There Goes My Hero would be one. But I'm trying to think of all my life I've been
Yeah,
looking for
that's what I was
something,
just thinking that
looking
song.
for something.
I was literally just thinking about that song.
Yeah.
Literally just was thinking about it, and you picked it up. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. No.
Speaking of
But
songs,
also,
speaking of songs, Evie has started singing some of those songs that when we were kids, and for the life of me, I cannot remember the second and third piece of it. So she'll start singing, "Ba ba black sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full, one for the master." I don't know what the other two, the rest of it goes. I'm like, so when she starts trying to sing the rest of it, I'm like, "Bah, bah, bah, bah."
well, think about this. How many people really know all these Christmas songs? You typically,
Word
you
for
start
word.
singing one and you get through like the first verse and everybody else is like, watermelon, 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 because no one remembers
No.
all those songs.
No.
And I was always terrible, and I played in a band and I wrote a lot of music. And unfortunately, I had this weird inability to even remember my own lyrics.
Really?
And yeah, just just go blank. And that's pretty sad. But kind of going back to the Seattle movement, Chris Cornell,
Oh yeah.
to
Yeah.
me, and God rest his soul,
Yeah.
and even the lead singer from Lincoln Park,
Chester.
Chester, what was his name? Benefield.
I I don't remember the last name. I remember the first name was Chester.
Yeah, and he
Sounds
wasn't
right.
too,
Sounds right.
yeah, he wasn't too far behind him. But Chris
Yeah.
Cornell, uh, to me, just my personal opinion, was probably the greatest rock singer
Hmm.
of all time, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I need to go
I think
back.
he
I
could hit
probably
all
know a
four
lot of their
octaves.
songs, but I just haven't heard them in so long. I'd probably have to go
Well,
back
don't
and
ask
listen.
me to name a song because
Yeah, I
I
can't
can't tell
remember
you.
them either. I have
I'd
to
have
look it up.
I'd have to look it up. Yeah. But Chris Cornell was phenomenal, man. It just
Yeah.
unbelievably. Um, I don't know. He could hit all four octaves, kind of like
Mm.
Daryl Hall.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you've
Hall
ever seen
notes, right? Daryl
Live at
Hall.
Daryl's house.
Uh-uh.
You've never seen Live at Daryl's house?
Uh-uh.
Are you familiar? You're familiar with Hall Notes, right?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Hall notes. Man Eater. Yeah.
Smile. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
so Daryl lives in upstate New York. I think that's where it is. And he invites a lot of different artists to come in and play with him, and they'll play one of their songs and one of his songs, and they'll kind of
Uh-huh.
take over, one
Yeah.
verse and the other verse. And
All right.
two of the greatest artists that I saw on there with Daryl, and there's been a lot, so I can't tell you that there weren't others that were as great.
Right.
But Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20,
Really?
the
I didn't
lead
know that.
singer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then the lead singer for Train, Pat
Oh
Monahan.
yeah. Yes. Yes.
And incredible. And you got professional studio musicians in there that are playing, and he has this whole big studio at his house, and
Yeah.
just really cool, man. And there's been a lot of people that have played on there. I mean,
Hmm.
there's probably a litany of Live at Daryl's house.
Huh.
But if you ever get a chance, watch it. But so you
Yeah.
want to talk about something else, man? What's
No, man. We're just we're just having catching up, man. It's been a while since we just been able to just kind of sit, relax, and not on the go and just be able to talk to each other.
yeah, I'm still stumped that I couldn't remember the Foo Fighters songs that I like, and I'm
You
embarrassed
got
about
one
it.
of them all my life.
Looking for something.
That's one. That's one.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yep,
No, that band
that's one of the
just
good ones.
rocks. And the sad thing is the drummer, and I'm drawing a blank on his name right now.
Didn't he commit
Something
suicide?
Hawkins. His last name was Hawkins.
Right.
And you had to be a good drummer to play for the Foo Fighters when the lead singer was the drummer for
Dave
Nirvana.
Grohl. Yeah.
Right.
It's no pressure, right?
Yeah, Dave Grohl, he seems like an extremely cool guy. Matter of fact, me and 6 or 7 other guys that played in the praise band in St. James were recorded with this guy who's from Montgomery. It's not Alan Jackson. Anyway, his last name was Jackson, but he was the guitarist and lead singer for this band called Hot Rod Circuit.
Uh-huh.
And they had a couple hit songs, videos, and I think a couple of the guys were from up north, and then 2 of them from Alabama. And anyway, they got a great opportunity to open up for the Foo Fighters.
Oh man.
And so so it's not what you think. It's not like this fraternity of people that get together and hang out and hey man, how you doing? Good to see you. I mean, a lot of these guys don't even know who these other people are.
Right.
Well, Dave Grohl apparently was in his bus by himself, and he asked his tour manager to go get the guys from Hot Rod Circuit, where there are only 2 of them, and one of them was Alan and whoever the other guy was in his band. And the guy said, Dave Grohl wants to meet y'all. I mean, is your whole band there? And they were like, no, we're now. It's just 2 of us. He said, well, come on. He wants to talk to y'all. And so they go get on the bus, and it's just Dave Grohl by himself.
Yeah.
No drinking, no drugs or anything like that.
Right.
And where they thought that conversation may last 4 or 5 minutes, maybe him just asking questions about their music and what they were planning on doing to open up and that kind of thing. But it was more of a more intimate conversation. He just really wanted to know more about them. And they were almost like, man, I know we're not our welcome. We need to leave. And they kept, like hinting like, hey, we know we don't need to be in here, taking up your time. And he just kept saying, no, stay in here and talk. And when he told me that, it just and I don't know what Dave Grohl's beliefs are. I have no idea. But it just made me feel so good about that guy. I think he's a good father.
Yeah.
I did see him do part of the eulogy for Motorhead's lead singer Lenny, and he was very emotional. So I know the guy's got a heart, but to hear these guys like say, man, he was the nicest guy you could possibly imagine,
right?
And that just made me love the Foo Fighters more.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Anyway,
that's very important that to remember that people, no matter what level of life they reach up to, even if they get to a place with a very high celebrity status, the ones that are grounded, they'll always make time just to talk to people. I highly admire Keanu Reeves. He seems like a very genuine, down to earth person.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I would love to hang out with him.
I mean,
even if it were 5 minutes on a plane.
5 minutes, yeah, 5 minutes.
Another one too is Adam Sandler.
Oh yeah,
now, he's not a musician. He's not a musician. He's an actor like Keanu, but
yeah,
that guy seems so loyal.
Right.
He has his friends that they're not like untalented and couldn't do their own stuff, but he includes
he puts them into everything together.
Yeah.
Once you're a part of his circle, so cool. You're in. Yeah. That's the way it should be.
And by the way, Adam Sandler's movies, he's my age, and I'm not gonna tell you my age. You know how old I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
But every bit of music, the soundtracks in his movies, especially the
Hmm.
ones that are under Happy Madison Productions, I
Hmm.
think that's what it's called.
Hmm.
He does other stuff with other, you know, producers and stuff as well. But
Right.
they're all the songs that I grew up with.
So
And
he probably pays the licensing deals to be able to use those songs because he grew up with them too. Yeah.
oh yeah, it's just
Oh yeah.
unbelievable how
Yeah.
he can pick these songs out. It's almost like, dude, man, I just know we would be good friends. We may not.
Well,
He may not even talk to me.
it's
But
like it's the like the movie remember Billy Madison? That was one of his first movies that he ever did.
yeah,
And remember when he goes, as a part of the deal, he's his dad. He makes this arrangement with his dad. Where he'll go through every single grade, and
yeah,
so he loved like he had so much fun like the fourth, fifth grade, whatever grade it was. But when he goes to the teenage years, remember he pulls up in that Trans Am with the jean jacket, because he's thinking like from back in that time. So he
that's
thinks he's
right.
cool and everything, and everybody's like, well, "Who is this guy?"
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
man, I think the guy's brilliant. I
that
remember
is
him
brilliant.
on
Yeah,
SNL, and he was always this goofy. He played this goofy role and everything, and even in his first movies,
yeah,
he still had that goofy kind of
yes.
you know uh
Character,
character.
persona.
But
Yeah,
yeah, but then a true artist really evolves, and he was probably always like this, but that's
yeah,
just how it started out.
yeah,
But then he does a movie like Spanglish,
yes,
which
yeah,
is, I thought was completely out of character, but to me, one of his best movies.
right.
And it was just really cool. I think the guy is so talented, and
He
I think
is.
that he has really good friends.
He does.
And I'm
He's
not
loyal to
saying
those friends,
he's loyal to them. He's not supporting them. They're all,
right?
they can all self support themselves. But I think he
Right.
just likes being around a lot of people that have the same chemistry, and he's just really
Yeah,
close with. I mean,
yeah.
for example, just the women that have been in his movies, and also he has his wife
Hmm.
in almost every movie, which I
Hmm.
think is awesome. Uh,
Hmm.
Maybe except before they were married, but she's always got maybe even a major role or a bit part.
Hmm.
But Drew Barrymore, I know he's done at least three movies with her.
I think he's done at least
Uh,
three with Jennifer Aniston.
yeah, with Jennifer Aniston, two with what's her name, Salma Hayek.
Hi.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's just so many.
Right.
But he's loyal to that because you know if it ain't broke, don't fix
Don't
it.
fix it. Yeah. Absolutely.
And he finds that chemistry in these for one of his friends, the one that's been in the most movies of all, and I can't even think of the guy's name, but I mean, I don't know if they were buddies growing up in the same neighborhood or what it
Hmm.
was, but I mean, he's been in like, I don't know, 15, 16 movies with him.
Yeah.
And
There's two particular that I'm thinking of that I think I know you're talking about.
yeah, if you remember The Wedding Singer, is
Yep.
that what it's called? Wedding Singer?
Yeah. Yeah. That's one
Yeah.
of his movies. Yeah.
Okay. You remember the guy that drove the limo, had the mustache? Um, they were best buddies, hung around. He was wearing the Michael Jackson jacket.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and he's the guy that's been in the most movies with him. But
Right. Rob Schneider's been
Rob
in a
Schneider's
lot
been
with
in a
him.
lot of movies
Yeah.
with him. The
And
guy
then,
that's got the
Kevin James has been in a few with him too.
oh yeah, Kevin James. And then the
Yeah.
guy that always has the cross eye,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then Chris Rock.
Chris Rock.
Um,
Yep.
let's see, David Spade.
David Spade.
Um,
Definitely David Spade.
and
Yep.
oh man, there's just so many. I can't even think of them all.
But the
The
thing
dude
about
that
what he
played the
does,
huh?
the thing about what he does, he'll go on and produce the movies for some of his friends too.
Of
You know,
course, yeah.
yeah, even if he's not in them, like Joe Dirt, um,
The
The
Wrong
Animal with
Missy,
Will Rob Schneider. Yep, yep,
The Wrong Missy with David Spade.
yep, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he had something to do with that.
Oh yeah,
Um, yeah, it's just it's really cool to
that's
because
cool.
quite honestly, to me, loyalty is everything.
Yeah,
And now, loyalty doesn't mean that you're not going to have disputes with your friends.
sure.
Um, but sometimes you need to have disputes. I mean, some of the best friends that I have uh, for years and years and years are guys that I got in fights with.
Yeah.
And Willie P. William.
Oh, Willie P.
I mean, we beat the crud out of each other for years.
Oh man,
But he's a loyal guy, man.
he is.
Brant
He really is.
McDonald, you're loyal. The list goes on, and that's kind of people I want to spend my time with.
Right,
They're the ones that are gonna have my back in whatever kind of situation.
right,
It could be a life or death situation. It could be a financial situation. It could be illness,
right,
multiple levels of illnesses.
right.
Um, I've been very fortunate, in that area. But and you know what? You and I know where we met, and I've been very fortunate and blessed to have you, to get to know you, to
I
become
I
good
feel I
friends
feel
with you.
exactly the same way. I feel exactly the same way because
Yeah, become
you
you're a
know,
best friend of mine. You're
yeah,
one of my best friends, and
yeah,
I'm very. I could probably almost be your dad.
yeah,
Well, I don't. I can't remember how old you are, but let's just go with it.
yeah.
I
I'll
could
go with
probably almost be.
it.
Um, so tell me what's going on in the banking world.
Oh wow. Well, with everything with the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, we had to, answer a little bit of questions here or there, from our customers, just kind of give them confidence and help them understand that with that bank, and I'm not talking bad about the bank and just talking about their business focus, it seemed like they were a very monoline type of bank. They only wanted to do a certain type of business with a certain type of customer. Seemed like their client base was more on the, venture capital side of things.
Right.
And they weren't really as focused on making sure that their risk was properly spread out. Now, I haven't done a deep dive into their actual financials, but one thing they probably made a mistake on, sometimes banks, when they have excess liquidity, they have to put the money somewhere to have a good yield. So typically, some banks, what they'll do is they'll move it into the bond market. So in their scenario, from what I've heard, and again, I have to research it myself, it seemed like they invested back during the time when the interest rates were still very low. 1% on bonds, back years ago was not that bad. However, in today's market and climate, that's not good at all. And so what they did was they made the mistake of putting it into, from what I heard, 10-year treasury bonds. So when people started pulling out their money to kind of balance everything out, you got to redeem those bonds. So when you redeem that early, you're going to be upside down. So
Yeah. So when interest rate there's a invert relationship,
yep, yep,
between rates and price.
right. And,
And
and and from your time working in marketable securities in that market, you've got to make sure your ratios are in line. From what I heard, their liquidity ratio wasn't anything like our liquidity ratio. We're a traditional bank. We're a mom and pop, CNI type bank where we look at core deposits across multiple industries. We're not just focused on one industry. So, that's the that's what we've been having to do, is just kind of reassure our customers. And the ones I've called on, there's like, well, I'm not worried about y'all. I mean, I'm banging with you guys for years. So should I worry? It's like, no, just give me a call, just in case you were curious about it. So,
Well, yeah, it kind of reminds me of the movie "It's a Wonderful Life,"
mhm,
um, and you remember George Bailey
mhm,
um,
banker.
was about to, yeah, building and what was it? Building and loan Bailey building and savings and loan. I don't care.
I can't. Yeah, it's the old. Yeah. Savings and loan. Yeah.
Savings and loan building, savings and loan, something like that. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and he was about to set sail with his new wife, and they were going to go to New York and Bermuda, and a couple $1,000s in cash. And of course, back in those days, a couple $1,000s in cash was a lot.
100,000.
Right. And there was a run on the bank.
Mhm.
And what happens like that, fear. That's why the market will go down so much quicker than it will go up, because
Right.
there's the fear factor.
Right.
When things are going good, people, I'm not saying everybody, but just by nature, um, they feel like they need to be a part of it, whatever it is.
Right. Fear,
Um,
uncertainty, and doubt. Yeah.
yeah, but when fear hits, it's almost a no second guessing. It's just like,
Yeah.
no, I got to act now.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
more impulsive when fear gets,
Right.
the fear factor comes in. But if you'll
Yeah.
remember the scene in that movie, George Bailey, when all these people are trying to get their funds out of his savings and loan,
Hmm.
and Potter, who was the wealthy, really mean, well, lack of better words, jerk who tried to
Right.
control everything. I'll never forget this, because this was, I don't know when the movie was made, but George Bailey said, "See,
50s, I
you
think.
don't understand.
Hmm.
You're selling, and Potter is buying, right?"
Hmm.
And so, what does that have to do with what you're talking about? I just think that one situation, could rapidly spread
Yeah.
across
Yeah.
every banking institution.
Yeah. Which is why what they did when it failed, not only did they cover everybody that had the FDIC insurance, they went in to say, even above the deposit limits, we're going to make sure everybody gets their money. And I'd never heard of anything like that happening, even back during the housing crisis. I don't remember that, but they basically said, if you have your money still at Silicon Valley Bank and you're over the limit, we'll still cover your deposits. So it set a interesting precedent, because now he kind of opens up the door of, well, what about all these other banks? Are you going to do that for all of them too? So it's
Well,
it's
yeah,
interesting. It's interesting. And then Republic
well,
Finance, they got 30 billion, I believe, injected into them to keep them from failing. So
look, I am a free market guy, right?
yeah, yeah.
Uh, I believe in, commerce,
I don't want
entrepreneurship.
communism. I definitely don't
No,
want
but
communism. I'll take that over anything. Yeah.
if they try to nationalize it, is that the right word? What's the word I'm looking for? Where the government controls all the banks, or one
Sounds
bank.
like it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Nationalize them might be
See,
the.
um, I don't think that would ever
Nope.
be a good idea.
No, never. Never.
And
No.
I want to continue to live in a free market society.
Hmm.
I don't want everybody knowing my business,
That's
and
right.
that's fair to say.
Yeah.
It's nothing. wrong or illegal for saying that,
No,
but I surely
no.
don't want the government knowing exactly, what the big brother thing is the factor.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm just not a fan of that.
Yeah.
I
No,
think
I'm not
that
either.
our
Absolutely not.
country was founded on really great principles, and
Godly principles.
yeah, and those principles and gave us the freedom to dream bigger
hmm
and have
Absolutely.
greater possibilities, potential
hmm
things. Not because when you start putting people in situations where there's a cap on whatever they do,
hmm
that kind of drives your hope way down.
Well,
Yeah.
and not only that, it also prevents innovation.
Innovation, absolutely. That's a good point. That's a great point. Because why would you do it?
Yeah, there's no incentive to do it.
Right.
That's why, there the I could be mistaking this phrase. I think it's equality of outcome or something, some type of like everybody gets the same fair shake. I don't think that's a good idea because why would anybody want to try to do more? If I work 80 hours and I make the same as somebody that works 0 hours, there's no incentive to work. So you have to create an environment where everybody wants to work. That's it's based off of merit. Like they're earning it and they're being rewarded for what they earn. And
Yeah, and that
you
could
know,
mean there's a very smart guy who knows how to earn it without having to work a whole lot.
right.
I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
And
I'm
it may
fine
be
with
a
that
guy
too.
that has to work really, really hard to earn it. And I mean, some people are gifted differently.
Right. You
But
got to
as
find a
long
way to
as there's
allow
no control over what you're doing,
control over it. That's right. And so I could be wrong about this. I've read some articles, heard many talks about it, but in China, I believe they have what's called a social credit system, in which they can basically govern based on your credit score whether you can do certain things. And so that's control. That's control over people's livelihoods and basic control of the markets too. I mean, even though China looks very capitalistic, it's it's a it
well,
behaves
Hong Kong,
capitalistic. Yeah, it behaves that way up until a certain point, and then communism takes over and controls. So that's not a true. It's not like America. It's not like a democratic republic, and that's what people don't understand when they're all for communism. Do you understand that there are people that have left communist countries for a reason? And so when you try to push that type of ideology on the people, and there's a small segment that came from that to here, and they're saying that, hey, that's not a good idea, then you might need to be open to what they're trying to say. And there may be a very good reason as to why, communism doesn't work. I don't think communism is a good way to go. I think
there's no way that that's the way to go
I don't think
because you
so.
because how do you control who controls you?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
And what America or the United States was created on was the ability to vote for the people
Right.
that they wanted, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now,
And to
and,
not
and
be underneath a monarchy.
right. And unfortunately, I mean, uh, there's a lot of people out there that look, I want everybody to be taken care of.
Yeah.
I don't want
No.
anybody. I am for everybody.
Right.
And I don't want them to fail. I don't want them to hurt. I don't want them to have, the inability to have health coverage.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's a very difficult um, situation, because I think as we've grown as a country, we've also created so much red tape
Yeah.
to get anything done in a
Right.
fashion that's efficient or quicker.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I also think that that's where the church needs to step in.
Yes.
Um,
And that's where it has Christ Health Center, just talking about healthcare, the services that they provide for people that can't afford it, or other organizations that are in in any way like a nonprofit based due to Medicare and healthcare coverage, because that is if it's not the number one cause of bankruptcy, it's definitely within the top three is medical bills, not being able to pay those medical bills.
well, actually, between 62 and 65% of bankruptcies are directly tied to medical expenses.
Okay.
And
That's what
out
I
of
thought.
that, about 75% of those people
Uh-huh.
that had to file bankruptcy had, um, you know, a health plan, a regular
Wow.
health plan.
Uh-huh.
The problem has become this. And don't get me wrong, I think, healthcare through the exchange or Obamacare
Hmm.
was great. It was a great thought. But what happened, and I don't like what was before what happened,
Right.
but you had a flood into the market on the insurance side of unhealthy people,
Mm.
right? So
Hmm.
what I'm getting
Hmm.
at are these are people that don't work for corporations,
Hmm.
um, where it's guaranteed issue, which it was with, or is with, you know the Affordable Care or
Right.
healthcare.gov or whatever you want to call it, the exchange.
Right.
That's all. There's no pre-existing conditions. But if you are with or covered under a group sponsored plan,
Hmm.
okay, there's a big pool of people, right?
Hmm.
Um, so, for example, you know, if you're less than 50 employees, you're in a small group pool.
Hmm.
If you're 50 to 100, just kind of speculating right here, right now, because it may have changed a
Hmm.
little bit. You're kind of looking at, some claims experience,
Right.
demographics, all that kind of stuff. Um, but then, if you get above 100, you're kind of a merit customer. So it's based
Hmm.
on claims experience.
Hmm.
And so for someone to be able to take all of a sudden flood the gates
Hmm.
with offering guaranteed issue insurance,
Hmm.
through the federal government, through subsidies, which I think is great. I mean, they subsidize them for this, and might as well subsidize them for that.
Right.
But what happened is all of a sudden, the people that went towards that
Hmm.
were the sick people, wasn't the young, healthy people.
Right.
And the
But it
penalties
makes sense
just,
that the sick people would, because they need it.
right, exactly.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah.
I want everybody to be covered.
Right.
So that's a really a conundrum, because is that the right word?
Probably. Yeah. The way you're using it sounds right.
Well, let's just
It's
go
a
with it.
Yeah. No, that sounds right.
Conundrum. Um, Look, you don't want anybody that. Well, first of all, if you want to truth, you can go. If you go into the emergency room, you're going to get taken care of no matter what.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
right, but if you have to go into the emergency room, all right,
Yeah.
and then they can uh, move you into an inpatient status. But
Right.
the issue is that what happened with this is that, let's just use the state of Alabama for example.
Okay.
Prior to 2014, probably the highest average calendar year deductible is $500.
Okay.
Right? Now, there were some groups out there, large groups that were self-insured and they could control
Right.
based on the data they had on their employees and so on and so forth, the average age and blah, blah, blah. They make it go to a higher deductible. But let's just say, for the sake of conversation, that which is true, that the average deductible is $500. And you had $25 copays to the doctor, maybe 35 to a specialist, 25 to a primary care physician, so on and so forth. Because, well, I'm using Alabama as an example.
Sure.
Because Blue Cross has about 96% of the business in the state.
Right, the market. Right.
I mean, you might as well just say it's 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what happened? Prices went up, and the only way to bring prices down was to raise the deductible.
Yeah.
So if you look at these metallic type plans, you've got your platinum, your gold, your silver, your bronze, and there's little plans in between on those metallic scales, whether it's an HSA or whatever, or different type of silver plan, less deductible, more deductible. People can't afford these platinum plans.
No.
Employer groups, especially the ones that are over 50, because they have to provide something affordable. Well, the only thing that's affordable are these plans that have 3,000, 4,000, 7,000 plus deductibles, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So going back to the bankruptcy thing, the majority of people in America, which we still have the ability or the dream or the hope of pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
Right. Still, majority can't afford to pay those kind of deductibles.
No.
Before the insurance company kicks in.
Yeah.
I'm talking about on major stuff. I mean, they still have copays for this and this. And so it's been a drastic change. And so what happens is when you get these medical bills in, where do they go? To the bottom of the stack.
They have to, yeah.
Right. And so then it becomes, you're in collections. And if it's longer than maybe a year, depending on when the provider actually filed it, it could become a hassle where people have to file bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And 10% of someone's pre-tax income is typically the tipping point to where they can't survive it. So if you got someone making $40,000 and they got a $4,000 bill, right? But they're living paycheck to paycheck.
The paycheck, right?
They can't afford it. The great news is I have the answer.
What's the answer?
Glad you asked. So what I do is I try to mitigate that gap for pennies on the dollar. In other words, if you have a $4,000 deductible, and let's just assume you're paying, let's just round up, say for single coverage, $400.
Yeah.
For single coverage. For an extra $80, that would cover that $4,000 deductible,
The gap.
$80 a month.
Yeah.
So now we're making that plan, which that same plan that you may be paying $400 for. If you're on the platinum plan, you may have $150 deductible, but it's $400 more, 800.
Yeah.
For $80, and we make it $485. I can make that plan look the same.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But how do you do that?
Well, we have carriers that we work with, and
Are they self-insured or something like that to be able to cover that gap, or is it?
No. They know exactly what they're paying out.
Oh, gotcha.
So there's not this unlimited amount of money.
Gotcha.
It used to be in a lot of plans that you could be on the hook for whatever. I hate to use this example, but maybe you had a child that was a hemophiliac. You start bleeding, you're in bad shape.
Yes.
All right. So the medication on that, I mean, you could have a $6 million bill, not individually, but the employer, if they were self-funded,
right?
Or the insurance company, if they're fully, they're fully covered through the insurance company. It could be an astronomical amount of money,
right?
And so what our secondary insurance / gap coverage is designed to, cover these deductibles, not copays to the doctor.
Right.
Although we can do that for primary care physician or specialist, and not for prescriptions, because there's people are used to paying copays for prescriptions. Used to paying copays for their doctor visits and stuff. Right. And but to cover the deductible, co-insurance, facility copays. So if you had to have an outside, or an outpatient, outpatient MRI or something like that, or maybe you had outpatient ACL or anterior cruciate ligament surgery on your knee. It covers the facility copays. If you went to the emergency room, it covers that. And
that's good.
Yeah. And so these insurance carriers know what their max is.
Right.
And it could, depending on what kind of benefit amount you want, you're paying more for more benefit.
Yeah.
But if you're a large company, it can actually also help and reduce the cost of the claims experience. So,
it also helps with overall employee retention too, I would think.
Exactly. Well, what our main goal is to help HR or companies' HR department to recruit and retain quality employees.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure exactly when all this started. You and I've had this conversation. I mean, there are certain countries around the world that think your benefit is having a job.
That's right.
So you go out and get your own insurance, right?
That's right.
I completely understand that.
Yeah.
But here, when whatever changed or whoever started it, they obviously, if they started on their own, they did it because they wanted to recruit really good quality employees.
Right.
And
because that's the largest expense. It makes up, just looking through the numbers that I typically look at on your income statement P&L sheet, that makes up that expense column out of the operating expense. It ranges anywhere from 30 to 35%. So that's a huge chunk right there. So if you think about you lose somebody, you have to, it's a good quality person, multitasking or whatnot. You got to go and find somebody to replace them and hope that they want to stay on board too. So, depending upon that person, how good they are, it may take years hiring, firing, hiring, and firing. So the true cost of losing that one employee is really, really impacts the bottom line of the company. So again, employee retention, that's if you can give them something that they really value and need. Obviously, insurance is one of them, especially health insurance. That's that keeps that employee around for a long time, especially as an employee ages and they start thinking about their dependents and their spouse. Those types of things are very important. So yeah, doing what you do in your business it's kind of like a no-brainer if you're a business owner.
That's right. And, and quite frankly, prior to 2014, there was not a whole lot for someone in my business, which is in the benefits business, employee benefits business, to participate in healthcare.
Right.
Because, number one, obviously, again, 96% of the market is that's a
huge,
huge
monopoly.
Right. Give two on the on the low end and 2 on the high end, 94, 98% of the market's controlled by Blue Cross. Now, there is a reason for that. But we're unlike any other state. I mean, we're not like any other state, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Is that, they have the largest network.
Right.
They do pay a lot of payments or reimbursements are based off what Medicare pays.
I see. Yeah.
So if Medicare pays $1,
right,
for whatever, and these doctors have to accept it, they don't all have to accept it.
No,
they can have a concierge type practice,
right?
But Blue Cross may pay $200 or $2 in this case. All right. So for every dollar, of Medicare, Blue Cross. Well, most of the carriers that try to come in and compete in the state may pay $1.50.
I see.
All right. So
yeah, you're gonna always go with the one that's going to pay more. Yeah.
Right. So the network is huge. But it's unfortunate that we don't have more competition.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, Blue Cross is, they pay doctors in Alabama, love them, and a lot of doctors don't want to deal with any other carrier because they've had bad experiences or whatnot. But that's not how the nation works. I mean,
I see.
We were in this selective state that had these low deductibles, low copays because we controlled it.
Right.
Well, not me, Blue Cross.
Yeah.
You step into Florida and there's multiple carriers. Georgia, Mississippi, similar to Alabama. Tennessee's kind of similar to Alabama. But Georgia, there's a lot of carriers, from Cigna to Aetna to Humana to Blue Cross. And so Blue Cross is controlled differently by each state. Now, there are some conglomerates like Anthem Blue Cross that may cover a lot of other states. But nevertheless, competition is always great.
Yeah, it is. It levels the playing field.
Yeah, that drives the efficiencies. And I still, to this day, I don't understand, why other carriers don't want to really step in and try to play ball. Because Blue Cross is not the biggest health insurance company.
No, not by any means. No. That's really interesting.
Well, That's all I got. That's my story.
Well, bro, that's your story. It kind of plays into what you do. So if people wanted to kind of learn more about it, you have a website, right?
James, I like to fly under the radar. I do not have a website. Matter of fact, I don't even have business cards. My business is strictly driven by relationships and service. And I know that sounds, what's the word? Antiquated. Is that right? Antiquated.
Antiquated. That's the
Yeah.
appropriate context. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm slightly dyslexic. I can't remember crap. But and my business has been driven by referrals. Um, um, Here's the interesting thing is I've never been a detail person in my life.
Mhm.
And I always just flew by the seat of my pants. And but when I got into this business, I had to really discipline myself to be detailed, to handle claims,
Right.
because I didn't want to let anybody down. I
Right.
wanted to be sure. And it helped me tremendously in a lot of ways. I'm still not a detailed person. I've just learned to do what I need to do to
Right.
take care of my customers. And but as far as a website, all those kinds of things, to me, it's been word of mouth.
Okay.
But don't think that I'm some old guy that doesn't take the technology and that thing. I'm really handsome and I dance very well. Uh, um, but no, that's coming. But I've really enjoyed the experience of just really strong relationships.
Well,
Uh,
if people want to get in touch with you, email address, number,
is
you're good with her.
Yeah, my email address is Joel, like in the Old Testament,
Mm-hmm.
middle initial A as in
Mm-hmm.
Allen,
Mm-hmm.
Sanders, Sanders, not Saunders, but Sanders like Colonel,
Yeah.
KFC
Yep.
at Yahoo. And my number is 334-306-9943.
Well,
Um,
because everything that you were just talking about, a lot of people, they probably aren't aware that this is available to them. As even companies themselves, you know, they're aware, but they may not be aware of what you have to bring to the table. So this is it's very important to be able to kind of get the word out about this because this is very helpful.
well, let me tell you, I'll take it a step further. We've just rolled out, we're about to roll out for all the people that have gone through the exchange to get insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, I mean, I can give you one example of a person that and needed health insurance but couldn't afford it,
Right.
and went to the exchange,
Mm-hmm.
healthcare.gov,
Mm-hmm.
went through Health Sherpa, I think is what it was. It was their
Mm-hmm.
kind of third party person to help facilitate which plan would best suit them, and
Right. Yeah.
so on and so forth based on income. And he ended up, now most people are not going to get this kind of deal,
Yeah.
but it was zero premium, zero deductible, max out of
Yeah.
pocket $900.
Wow.
And you know doctor, physician covers $25, going back old school.
Old school. Yeah.
But most people get subsidized, and it's not like a tax subsidy. It's just directly taken off the premium.
Okay.
So where the
Okay.
plan, let's just say, for example, for individual maybe $500
Mm-hmm.
or 400,
Mm-hmm.
they may pay 100, but their deductible may be 2 or 3,000.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Well, we developed an individual gap plan that pays directly to the provider, or what we like to call it is secondary insurance. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason behind that, because if you ever go into the doctor, maybe a new doctor, you fill out your personal information, you get to the point with
Right.
who's your primary health insurance carrier. 9.5 times out of 10 is Blue Cross. And the second
Right.
question is, do you have secondary insurance? Yes.
Right.
And you fill in that information. So it's going to cover those procedures that are covered in offices. Even you pay your copay to the doctor.
Right. Yeah.
But if they do a procedure, like you go to a dermatologist and they have to remove
Mm-hmm.
something, there's an extra charge. It
Right.
covers those things, right? It covers your
Hmm.
deductible and co-insurance, so on and so forth. But
Right.
this is an individual plan.
Huh.
And there's tons of people out there that are self-employed that are
Yes.
on the exchange, but are
Yes.
still stuck with a high deductible.
Because they're an
So,
individual, basically. Yeah.
right. So now we can cover them
That's
as
great.
opposed to it just being a group sponsor plan.
Yeah. That's great. That's cool.
And
That's really cool.
really cool, man. Well, let's go back to Foo Fighters. Trying to still, my mind's racing around.
You still can't figure out that song.
I'm really embarrassed. No, there's a lot of songs I love. I wish I could kind of maneuver
Yeah,
through my phone right now.
I
I
tell
can
you
tell you,
another group that you when you were talking about Daryl Hall live, uh Matchbox 20.
Daryl live at Daryl's house.
Live at Daryl's house, Matchbox 20. That is a great band too.
So I saw him in concert.
Now they were 2000s in the 2000 era though, weren't they?
Uh,
Late
yeah,
90s, early 2000s, probably.
late '90s. Yeah,
Definitely
into
late
the
90s.
2000, into 2000,
Yeah.
and I saw him at oh gosh, Oak Mountain
Okay.
Amphitheater.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I think that guy Rob Thomas is an incredible singer,
Very
incredible
talented.
songwriter.
Yes.
Um,
You remember the song
and
that he did with Carlos Santana, him and
absolutely,
Rob Thomas? That's a great
that's
song.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, another band, but don't ask me any names. If any names of any songs.
Okay.
Um, I always like Three Doors Down.
Oh yeah, Three Doors Down's good. Now I can't remember the actual song name, but it came out around the time of 9/11. They had clips of the military throughout it. Is that
Yes.
Three Doors
Yeah.
Down?
It was on. They were on a
When
naval
I'm
ship.
Gone. Is it called When I'm Gone? Is that the name of the song? I know that's one of the main like choruses.
See, man. See, that's the problem, mate. I get stumped on this, but I remember the video. It was a naval ship,
Yeah.
and they played on the. You're right, on the naval show.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know where they got their name from?
No.
All right, so they're from Mississippi originally,
Really, I didn't know that. Okay.
and they were playing over in Gulf Shores, Orange Beach area in Alabama,
Yeah.
and they were driving back through Foley. This is when they first got started.
Mm-hmm.
And so in downtown Foley, there was a sign that was hanging down from this building in that
It
downtown
said Three
area. It
Doors
says,
Down.
"We've moved 3 doors down."
That's great. That's great.
And
I
they
love
changed
it.
their name. And
Yeah.
yeah, I dig that band. But man, you don't want to get into music with me because I can't name any songs, but I can tell you who I love.
What about
And
Nickelback? What do you think about Nickelback?
I think Nickelback is great. I think they've
I
gotten
do
a
too.
bad break
I know.
for some odd reason.
Well, I think
People were bashing them.
I think the criticism is that it all sounds the same, but to me it doesn't. It really doesn't.
I think they're freaking awesome, man.
I do too. I do too. I can think of a lot of good
You
songs
know
from
what it
Nickelback.
takes to write a song,
Most
write
people don't.
lyrics, have
No.
the vocals, and have the foundation of the band.
Everything line up. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get it put out
Right.
and played.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it was some conspiracy thing to get them
Yeah.
because it became this hate Nickelback thing.
Yeah. Well, I
I
don't.
think they're
I
freaking
definitely.
awesome.
Yeah. And they one of their more recent albums, it got really interesting because they did. I think it's called "Feed the Machine." It made a criticism about government and all that. It made a really interesting turn in their music. Uh, said, but it was really really interesting.
Well, no, no,
One
I'm
for the
trying to think of what happened here lately. I think they had a song that was on the soundtrack of this movie.
uh-huh. Oh, this is recently.
Yeah, and I swear, I want to say it may have been an Adam Sandler movie. I can't remember.
Mhm.
Oh, I know who it was. No, it was Blake, not Blake, Ryan Reynolds.
Mhm.
Ryan, he's Canadian,
Yeah,
and so is Nickelback.
yeah, obviously.
He got them to. He's married to some Blake girl, um, beautiful girl. But he got them to do the soundtrack, and then he also got them to do, do this live music thing. And I think this guy, by the way, I think that guy's a really cool guy too. Ryan
Ryan
Reynolds.
Reynolds. Of
Yeah.
course, yeah.
Matter of
Absolutely.
fact, he just sold that phone business for like
Yeah.
that cellular
Yeah.
phone business, whatever it was called,
Yeah.
1.2 billion, 1.3
Yeah.
billion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
He's
I
not
think
hurting for money.
no, no, I think he's very creative. I think he's one of the smartest,
Yeah.
most incredible actors. Just his
He sold
the
his
way.
tequila gin. Was it gin or is it tequila company?
Oh, he has a tequila company. Yeah,
Yeah, I think he sold his stake in that too.
yeah, and then he just sold that whatever that cell phone business was for
Yeah,
like 1.2 billion.
Mint Mobile.
But he
Hmm.
did a great thing. He teed Nickelback up and put them in a position to kind of laugh at themselves about what people thought about them.
Yeah.
And they played this live song, and it was on the soundtrack to this movie. And
Hmm.
I thought that was cool, man. I
Yeah.
mean, why do you bash people?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, if I'm in a place and listen to music and they're terrible, I'm not screaming out, "You suck." But I may be thinking in my mind, they're absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Yeah. I
I'm not
just
going to go
I,
around and bash. I
it's
mean, who am
it's
I to do that?
it's human nature, unfortunately. You know.
It is,
Yeah.
and it is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Did you know why? We're called to love.
Yep. Yep.
Called to love, and everybody is equal.
Yep. We all have an expiration date.
Yes, we do. And I hope mine extends a little bit further.
Well, yeah, you got some grandbabies to, you know.
Yeah, I got to be around them. I got to take care of them, and man, no one's perfect,
Nope.
and I own my mistakes. I try not to let them beat me up, but you know me, and sometimes I deal with guilt and shame. Um, I've done nothing like anything to hurt my family, other than financially sometimes, but that's because of my impulsive risk at one time. But you learn from your mistakes.
Yes.
And there's a policeman pulling up right in front of me right now, probably wondering what the crud I'm doing. So I might be in jail, so we'll have to have another conversation about my mistakes. But no, you know, life is very short. And the question that, well, most people, and men especially, don't want to live a meaningless life.
Yeah.
That's torture.
No.
And I can say there's been times where I lived a meaningless life. And, we all want to know what our purpose is. It's
Absolutely.
not just to exist.
No. No.
Um,
And even if you have everything in the world that you could possibly imagine, you eventually, in those quiet moments, wake up
eventually
and
what?
ask what your eventually you ask what your purpose is in the quiet moments.
I think that's the main thing, man. Well, the main thing is I'll use Holland's kind of structure to know God, to find freedom, find your purpose, and make a difference. And Jesus summed up all the commands with two. This cop is pulling up right by me here. But what am I worried about? I'm not doing anything wrong.
No, you're not. Just tell them, hey, I'm having a conversation.
Yeah. But he summed it up. All the commands in two things, You know what they were? Love the Lord.
All your heart and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself.
Love your neighbor as yourself. And it's interesting that he used that word neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes those are the hardest people to get along with.
You're right about that, brother.
But and then of course we're to take care of the widows and the fatherless,
Orphans. Yep.
and to kind of round this thing up real quick, the thing is bro, there's racism, there's all kinds of stuff, and none of us chose to be born what color or whatever.
Nope.
We had no choice.
Nope.
But we do have a choice to love, and we do. The people that we try to love, we hope they receive it. But if they don't, we can't hold that against them, because that's not the way it is.
No.
But God loves every single one of us.
Yep.
Jesus came to save us all.
That's right.
You can get real deep into the Bible and get real deep into these thoughts. And that's okay, because God gave us a brain for that. But he also said, Jesus said, to believe as a child.
And with my child, I know exactly what that's like, as you just accept it.
Right. And so that's my mantra. Don't get me wrong. I do question things sometimes, but my mantra is just, I believe.
Yep.
And that's the most important thing in this life, is to know God, have a relationship with him, find freedom from things that are holding you back, know your purpose, which is so important, because it gives you hope. It gives you joy to know what you're doing. And then with all that, you will make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, as everything, order is important. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. And I'm probably living my life on purpose. I don't even know it. But I feel like there's more. And I'm 57 years old, and I'm thinking, man, sometimes I'm so unhappy and I'm miserable. But those are those are choices that I make.
That's right.
Those are choices that I choose to believe. I really admire people who can just fight through situations.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't envy anybody. I don't covet anybody or anything they have. Um, there's part of me that goes, please let me know if I'm to do something else to just change my direction.
Right.
And with that being said, I think we have to ask God to check,
Or heart.
check our hearts and weed out the things that are preventing us from being who He designed us to be.
I agree.
But that's all I have, man. At the end of the day, my last breath, it's me and God alone. And all I want to hear when I leave this earth is good job, my faithful servant.
So,
All right, buddy.
all right, bro.
Enjoyed it.
It's always a good time, bro.
How do I hang
Thank
up
you.
on this?
I'll take care of that.
Okay, man. Ciao.
Love you, bro.
Love you too, man.
Bye.